It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. Mexico's most popular opposition politician, the leftist Andres Manuel Lopez Abradore, is currently on a speaking tour in the U.S., drumming up support for a third run for Mexico's presidency next year. On Wednesday, he was in Chicago. He began his tour in Los Angeles nearly 2 weeks ago, where he blasted President Trump's policies towards Mexico. Here's what he had to say in Los Angeles.
My countrymen and women, I must confess that I am optimistic. I think the wall and the demagoguery of patriotism are no match for the dignity and humanity of the American people. I'm sure that strong arguments and the strength of public opinion will make those who are like Donald Trump and like to use threats and force will see sense.
Joining us now to talk about Lopez Abradore is John Ackerman. Professor Ackerman teaches at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. He's also editor-in-chief of the Mexican Law Review and a columnist with La Jornada newspaper and Proceso magazine. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sharmini. A great pleasure as always.
So, John, let's start with Andres Manuel Lopez Abradore's background. Where does he come from? What has he been doing? And in terms of, his history, in terms of his lineage to power and where he is today?
That's a big question. Lopez Abradore has been in politics for a long time. He has been a very unique politician insofar as he has always been very close to social movements and has been, in crucial moments in Mexico's history, willing to really take the streets to protest against important economic or political frauds against the Mexican people. This has been his perhaps most important element, as well as his incredible honesty and lack of corruption. The Mexican political system today is mired in scandal after scandal, and this has engulfed just about all of the establishment parties. The old guard party of the revolution, supposedly, which has bought into neoliberalism a long time ago. The PAN, the Party of National Action, which is the right-wing Christian Democratic Party, and the PRD, the erstwhile left-wing party, which is now, bureaucratized and corrupted institute, similar to the French Socialist Party or to the American Democratic Party. Lopez Abradore broke with that bureaucratized, corrupt left a few years ago, created his new party, the Morena party, which is a movement in its name. It's called the Movimiento de Regeneración Nacional, which is precisely, its objective is to break with this incredible chasm between the political class and society and try to win the president's elections of 2018. And so that's where we're at today. Lopez Abradore won the elections, I would say, and many generally accepted in 2006. It was stolen from him by Felipe Calderón. In 2012, he increased his voting from 15 million in 2006 to 16.5 million in 2012. He very likely won 2012 as well, but there was also vote rigging and corruption, particularly of the media, and an enormous amount of vote buying in 2012 with Peña Nieto. But even then, the official results were 38 to 32% Lopez Abradore. And now this is his third chance. And many are comparing him to, Allende or to Lula da Silva, who, through persistence, finally breaks through, and 2018 might be his chance. He's way ahead in all the polls, 10% ahead of the closest contender in just about all the polls. And his closest contender is Margarita Zavala, the wife of Felipe Calderón, who is very unlikely to be able to actually ride this bubble of media attention she's getting now all the way to 2018. So things are looking good, that we might finally have an opportunity in Mexico to experiment with the left. Mexico is the country, in addition to Colombia, which has not joined the the pink wave, which engulfed all of Latin America. Mexico has remained neoliberal consistently for the last 30, 40 years, well, for longer than that, but during this period of the pink wave. And ironically, just as that pink wave is flooding back to the right in South America, this might be the chance for Mexico to be the key site for reviving left-wing politics in Latin America, or at least that's the hope.
Now, speaking of the left wing, Lopez Obrador left the failing party of the Democratic Revolution, or what they call PRD, in 2012, and he joined this leftist party, National Regeneration Movement, or Morena, as you call it. Now, give us a sense of what the relationship is between Lopez Obrador and his candidacy for president and the social movements that you were mentioning earlier.
Morena has been trying to correct for past failures. The PRD, one of its great failures was this separation from social movements. It never achieved that ideal utopia of a movement party. Morena is trying to achieve this. It has done so very effectively, for instance, with the teachers movement throughout the country, the teaching movement. There was dissident teachers have been getting very close to Morena. Some of the best grassroots leaders of Morena are elementary school teachers participating in the movement. They had, for instance, Morena a great showing in the governor elections this was just last year in 2016 in Oaxaca, also in Veracruz, very much due to the participating of these dissident teachers unions and movements. In those two states is also a significant percentage of indigenous population, which has allied itself with Morena. In Guerrero as well, which is another state very full of movements. There were problems in 2015 because of the Ayotzinapa disappearances. The parents of the students refused to ally with Morena party, but that's changing now. There's a lot more of an opening for a possibility of a real movement party in Guerrero. In the north, it's a little bit more difficult because in the northern part of Mexico, the politics is much more shifted towards the right, more sort of U.S. American style, while the southern part of Mexico is more, Latin American style. And there, Lopez Obrador has been having a rapprochement, closer relationships with some of the fractions of the elites, of the businessmen themselves, trying to calm them down about what he's really trying to do in terms of economic policy. This is in some ways similar to Lula's last, I guess it was his third run as well, when he finally won, in which Lula sort of had this reconciliation with a certain sector of more national-based corporations and private sector. Lopez Obrador is doing that as well. And so he's, trying to balance the different sectors of society, and we'll see if it works. That's the big question from now towards the election 2018.
And I remember many, many years ago when I was working with President Chavez, Lopez Obrador was one of those who actually supported President Chavez and his visits to Mexico to make sure that they went well and he was properly treated by the Mexican national government and so on. I wanted to know where he is politically in terms of left politics and his socialist ideals, and will this resonate with the people of Mexico?
This is a big question. They've tried to use the Chavez ghost, all these false ideas of what Chavez is about to disqualify Lopez Obrador in Mexico. Recently, for instance, Larry Summers, ex-president of Harvard, is insinuating that we're going to have a Chavez in Mexico. Now, of course, we all know that these images of Chavez are absolutely incorrect, but Lopez Obrador is very careful, exceedingly careful about his positions. He is ideologically closer to Lula than to Chavez. He's more of a social democratic left. He's probably similar, I would say, to Bernie Sanders. That would be his sort of his equivalent in the region in terms of his politics, his ideology. He himself has been he understands himself as being on the left, but he says that he emphasizes beyond ideology. He says the most important thing is to be honest and not corrupt, and to be worried about poverty and redistribution. And so he's not an ideological radical, but Mexican population and Mexican movements are quite radical, and they are pushing him, and they will be pushing him to actually make a difference if he were to arrive in the presidency. And it's actually, to tell you the truth, given the situation we have in Mexico today with so much corruption, so much inequality, so much concentration of wealth, and such a collapse of institutionality of any kind of national sovereignty, it wouldn't be hard to actually make a revolution in Mexico. It wouldn't need a profound socialist ideology, at least at the first step. And that's what at least Lopez Obrador is saying. He's saying he does want radical change, but based on combating corruption and ending poverty.
All right. I thank you so much for joining us today, Professor Ackerman. I look forward to your ongoing analysis of his candidacy moving forward. And I understand he's going to be coming to the United States often. So hope we can have a chance to speak with you then, as well as possibly presidential candidate Lopez Obrador. Thank you.
Yes, Lopez Obrador, he'll be in, I think it's March 5th and 6th. He's going to be in El Paso and in Phoenix. And then he'll be in New York on March 13th and 14th, and in Washington, D.C. on March 15th. So watch out for that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here on the Real News Network.